So just a few days ago, the Trackmania player Zai found a way to import old Trackmania cars from games like the Trackmania 2 series and Trackmania Sunrise into Trackmania 2020, which is the current game. Since these cars aren't supposed to be in the game and are only available via an external download, some players have referred to this as the Trackmania black market. And the funny thing is, this exact same thing happened about 2 years ago, except at that time, these cars could be abused to achieve impossible world records, so Nadeo had to patch it. But now that that bug seems to be fixed, it can't be confirmed if they're going to remove it again. So I decided to use this time to create a few maps of the Canyon, Bay, and Valley car in case they get lost to time. And if you want to see me make tracks with the other 4 cars, then subscribe and leave a comment telling me you want to see it. So let's start with the first map, where we'll be using the Canyon car. Just a little warning before I create these maps, I have never played any Trackmania game other than Trackmania 2020, which means I've literally never used these cars before, apart from the few maps that players have created for this game. And if you're wondering what the sidebar is for, it's because I need to be using the Editor++ extension, because this is the only way to use those cars. So then I go down here to Canyon car. Now let's get making it. So this first little bit is just going to be me testing out the waters to see how it works. We'll just see if this even works in general. And it does. As you can see, this is not a car that's supposed to be in this game. So it seems like this car is pretty slidey, and it doesn't have a whole lot of grip. I also want to see how it handles on road. And it seems like on road it's way softer of steering. Or actually it could just have to do with the speed. Let's see. Even if I add this booster, it still is pretty slow with steering. But then you can also do a little brake tap and do some drift. And that drift works pretty good. I'm thinking about making this map just fully tech. But then again, I probably should test it out with some different surfaces. So let's add some dirt in here now. Also, another thing I realized is I'm not even really sure why, but I can't use any action keys. I guess that probably has to do with how the action keys work, where it's dependent on which card you're using, but it could really be anything. Let's then add a dirt road, like that, and I should also probably add a checkpoint right here. Oh, by the way, you probably noticed, but I'm testing out having a green timer on the screen, so you guys can let me know if you like it, or if you prefer the videos without it. Now, this turn is a bit precise. For some reason, this car also has like really weirdly delayed steering. Like I'm holding left here and it like takes like half a second until it really starts turning. Like you can look my inputs in the top left, but I think that just has to do with the car, not even the game. No, I think I'm gonna change it up a bit. Let's just try this out. And it almost kind of works. But for some reason, this jump is just not working how it should be. The problem here is, for some reason, any other car in this game would not be able to grip this wall. But because this can grip the wall for some reason, it throws off everything about the jump. So I guess we'll just have to try a different transition. Let's do a very similar turn because this seemed to work over here. So let's see if the car is too fast at this point for the outside line. It is a little bit, but you could also just try and give the player more space. Like that. And that might make it possible. And though it's difficult to get the outside line, you can still get a pretty smooth line through this turn. And then you could jump out here like that. And now let's see how grass works with the Canyon car. Just from that little bit I did, I can tell it's like a weird combination of road and dirt grip. Yeah, it seems like it has slow acceleration, but also slow handling, which is quite strange, because in the grand scheme of things, grass and dirt aren't very different. And what happens if we mix grass and tech together? They actually don't feel that different. Like, I think the acceleration is a bit different, but the handling is literally exactly the same. So now we have ice and plastic left. I'm really curious how ice would work because ice was only introduced in this game, so the other cars shouldn't be able to really interact with it. Oh, you know what I think is that every surface that wasn't in the original games, they don't have any really programming for these surfaces. So what it does is it defaults to the road. Because that would make sense how dirt and road are different because they were both in the original game, but grass and ice were not. So I think the game basically defaults these blocks to road. And if I had to guess, it's probably going to be the same with plastic. I'll just test it out like that. I feel like it might be slightly different with plastic, but maybe that's just because it's on a hill. I feel like something's different, but it doesn't feel like plastic. So I'm just gonna guess that it's probably just the same as road. Okay, after a bit of research, what I've found is that the canyon car works best with road, dirt, and penalty grass. So let's see what happens if I make this section penalty grass. So now let's test it out. And you can see the grip with penalty grass is quite weird. But basically, penalty grass is a more slidey version of dirt, I think. But they honestly could be the same surface, I'm not sure. Oh, I also forgot to unpause the green timer. Don't get too mad at me for that. So I guess this is basically gonna have to be a tech and dirt map with a bit of penalty grass mixed in. What about a drift like this? How does that work with the canyon car? So you don't actually need to drift this, but what if you remove that block? And then I'll also add a checkpoint right here just so it's more easily respawnable. I guess that kind of works. Not sure what I thought was going to happen, but anyways, let me quickly make sure I block this off to prevent any cuts, like that and like that. Okay, now let's test this again. And your speed is a little high, like you can easily wobble if you go up this too awkwardly, but it still drives pretty well. So now I say we add one more dirt section, one more penalty section, and then we add the finish. So let's do the dirt section. And that turn works. And now I could transition to penalty like this, and then like into one of these turns. And then down here, like that, and like that. And then one last drift, like that. And then a jump into a finish, like that. That could be pretty challenging to flip into there. So if you didn't notice the penalty grip from earlier, you can see it now. Just how slidey this surface is. So you slide around here, which is pretty fun to do. And then you don't actually need to drift this corner. I don't know if I should make it so you have to drift. Let's just see how long the map is from start to finish. And about 30 seconds is okay. But I actually think I want to make it a tiny bit longer. And I could also make this turn into a drift. So then it should force you to have to drift around here and then into one last dirt section like that and that, and then one last penalty section like this, and then a little tech section like that with a drift around the corner into the finish. So let's just test it out from here to see if this actually works good. Then you drift up here, and that turn is a little blind, but I probably could make it easier to see where you're going. And you actually don't even need to drift that corner, but I think I like it without the drift. So now 44 minutes into the route, I think it's time to do the scenery. What I usually do is I start off by choosing a color, and that sometimes helps me think of what contrasting colors that for the scenery, or just like what the scenery should be in general. Because then I can make the whole route dark gray, but then the scenery is white, which is going to be pretty contrasting and make it look pretty good, hopefully. And I think that's this track finally done. I did probably spend about 75% of the time on scenery, but I think this map came out looking pretty cool. And by the way, if you want to play these tracks for yourself, they're probably not going to be available because these cars aren't really supposed to be in the game. So Nadeo might just remove it before this video comes out. But if you can't play it, you can at least watch me play it. So it starts off with the drift, into another quick drift, jump into the dirt section, drive around this turn, into the penalty section, and then another drift here, into this tight dirt section, into another penalty section, and then another quick drift, keep grip on the dirt, and then a quick turn up the penalty section and into the finish. And unlike most of my other tracks, I actually want to give these tracks proper names. So I was thinking about this a bit when I was making the map, and the idea I had for this was Sunstruck. Because the white effect is like you're being blinded by the sun. So we'll save that, and then we'll get a quick little thumbnail. Honestly, although it's simple, just that works. And we'll save it again, and that's this map done. There's the canyon car map. Next, I'm going to be making a map with the bay car. Let's get into it. Now here we're starting the second map, and now we'll change the vehicle to bay car. I also got to reset the green timer and start it again. Let's see how the bay car drives. Okay, so this has way better handling. As you can see, like I can make some pretty tight turns. And you can also drift in a similar way to the stadium car, where it basically like releases your grip, and then once you let go of the brake, it brings your grip back. I could just make a full tech map, but I also want to try a bunch of different surfaces that I just haven't touched yet. And maybe this car actually works with them. First we have water, which slows down the car a lot. And then with bobsleighs, this does not seem intended. I'm not doing anything special. I'm really just turning left and right. But it's like not turning the car, it's just moving the car sideways. That's interesting. Let's make this third section a bit longer, and then do a big grass section out here. See, I'm not sure if this has to do with because it's water as well, and it seems to be the same scenario with grass, where it acts as road, and dirt is similar to the canyon car, where it's slightly less grip, I think. But it is actually pretty similar to road, where if you go into a turn, you can brake and then release it to drift. I gotta use this bobsleigh though, because this is just such a funky way of driving. Is it the same for ice though? Or is it just bobsleigh? No, it's also like that for ice. And you can also tell it's not supposed to do this because the camera really doesn't know how to follow the car. Let's also try with plastic to complete the test. And I think, yeah, it is also, again, just like road. So why is ice the only one that is different? So I guess I'm gonna try and make an ice tech map. So we can just start it off like this. And that kind of works. I also realized I didn't even try like the reactor boost or any of these blocks. So I guess they just don't work. Let's see, does like cruise control work? These blocks would work, yeah. I also think that you also get icy tires from this because it does feel a little bit more slippery than usual. Okay, so that works. And then here we could do a drift. Probably need a bit more space and like that. And a checkpoint there. So now you can drift around that corner. But yeah, there definitely is something going on with the icy tire. Maybe I should just wait for them to wear off and then I'll do the tech section. So you just drive for a bit and then you do the drift. But also, I don't know if this car ever even needs to drift because it's got such good handling. So I guess I gotta map this like snow car. And again, does this quarter pipe not work? And unlike the canyon car, this quarter pipe jump actually works. I'm surprised. I thought they would all be the same and wouldn't work. But I guess they are also from different games. Also, this car is way heavier than like any other car in this game. So this quarter pipe jump should work. And it works pretty flawlessly. Now, I did try ice on flat ground, but what about on a banked hill? How does it work like this? So this is what I've came up with for the bank turn. And for some reason, driving straight up, you lose speed. But then if you turn like this, you gain speed. If you look at my inputs in the top left, you can see I'm holding left, and that's what's making me gain speed. I'm sure someone can explain why, but I have zero clue why that works. And you also do get icy tires similar to the stadium car. And it also makes it slide just like the stadium car. And I think it's basically impossible to make a turn where you have to drift with this car. Because it's either faster to just no slide or to release and then just drive as normal. I've also discovered something else with this car where you can get some sort of boost if you turn at like a 45-degree angle, it seems. Maybe it's similar to vectoring, where you go forwards and sideways at the same time and you go faster. Because I'm like turning my car sideways and then steering the opposite direction. That's quite interesting. I definitely got the speed boost there, and you can see the difference if I don't do it. I barely make this jump if I don't do it. I nearly overjump it. You know what? I'll make it intended to not do it, but then also make this platform big enough where if you use that trick, you can get a better run than the normal version. But it's way too inconsistent to drive to make it intended. Now, let's quickly see how long this map is so far. And it's about 20 seconds long so far. So I should probably have about 2 more ice sections and 2 more tech sections. I actually haven't tried like penalty though. And it seems similar to the canyon car on penalty grass. And that might be the same for penalty dirt or sand, which I believe is true. But what about snow? Snow actually works like how ice normally works. Maybe I can use it to like set up some sort of ice drift or something. I mean, I guess that somewhat works. Also, I just realized for some reason my tires are at different ice percentages. Because unless like I'm rocking back and forth, they should all be the same percentage. But for some reason, the right tires are slightly higher. I have no clue how to explain that. But it seems like there's a lot about this car that's hard to explain. And why don't we do another quarter pipe jump? Like, there should be good. Now, I think we should do one last penalty snow section into the final ice section. So now that's the snow section done. And I think this works fine into this. But then I can make this part road. And then now we have this little text section. Like that. And then here we jump into the finish. So now let's test this out to see if you can even control this at all. And it works pretty flawlessly because you don't get icy tires from the snow, which means I could probably make this a bit more precise. Like I can literally do this into a jump like this into the finish like that. And also this turn is pretty tricky because you can end up on two wheels or you can start sliding like this. So it's kind of difficult to make this jump. But if you get all these turns good, then you can make it in no problem. You know what? I think I have to replace some of these ice sections with snow. Because now that I play them back, they're very inconsistent to drive. But snow, for some reason, is way easier to control. So now let's play the map from the beginning. It's definitely less of the Cup of the Day style than the previous map, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. This is more of an experimental track, and I feel like it did good for that. So now, let's get to making the scenery for this track. And that took way longer than I thought it would. But I think I'm finally done with this map. Again, I spent a lot of time on the scenery, but at least I spent a lot of time on the route as well. And for the name of this track, it should obviously have something to do with cold or ice. And when I think of phrases like that, one that comes to mind is frozen in time. So that's going to be the name of this track. And the name is also kind of a play on words, because we're using old cars from old games. Anyways, here's the second track with the Bay car. So we start off the ice turn into a road section and then a quarter pipe jump. And here I switch it to snow and asphalt instead of ice as it was before, because you just got way too much speed from the ice. So now you jump up here and then go down into the snow, which is again way easier to control than the ice. And then you jump up here, go here, turn sideways, and use the ice to position yourself. Another quarter pipe jump. And a little snow slide. Get the full booster. And jump into the finish. This track definitely was very experimental, but it still came out pretty fun to play. And I also discovered some crazy tricks. But that's with the Bay car. Let's see if it's going to be the same with the next car, the Valley car. So So now for the third and final map of this video, I'm going to be making a map with the Valley car. Let's start the timer and begin our testing. I don't even know what the Valley car looks like, to be honest. So after doing a bit more research, also known as playing some Valley car maps, it seems like this is another very tech-focused surface. And people sometimes use dirt, but not that often. It's usually like full tech. And if I had to guess, all the other surfaces are probably the same. It also has very weak turning. Like I'm steering full force and I can barely get around this turn. So I guess this track is definitely going to be the most tech focused out of all of them. I also kind of just realized that this car is very slow. Like it literally doesn't go up to third gear. And on the dirt, it like stays at like 120 speed or so. So I guess this is going to be a fairly slow paced map. So here's what I have now. I added some pillars on the inside. So you know to take a wide line through this turn. And then you drive here and you can just barely keep grip down this hill. Now we have another quarter pipe jump. But this is very different than the ones from the Bay car map. It both looks different and it drives different. And you could also drive this turn by driving through the triangle. So now after this big long tech section, I gotta add another dirt section. This transition could be good if it worked a little more consistently, but it doesn't seem that consistent from me trying it. And I forgot to unpause the recording, but this is what I made. We have this ramp where you jump up here and go around here. And that's all I really made. I haven't seen yet if dirt platform is the same as the dirt road. Like obviously the grip is gonna be the same, but is it just as slow? And it seems like it is. It almost drives like it's penalty surface. So I guess I can use it as that, where you drive like through here and then into the road section, like that. And yeah, that works. How does penalty grass drive though? Because if that's what dirt drives like, penalty grass must be like way worse. And that is pretty weird. Also, if you notice me talking less and less throughout these, it's because I'm recording them back to back to back. So like my energy starts up high, but then it gradually decreases over time. Anyways, here I can do another dirt section. This dirt slowing the car down thing is actually pretty useful. Because like here you can jump straight into the transition without having to worry about if the car is going to be too fast. So we're now 30 minutes in. And I'm probably about 30 seconds into this map. Let's just test the map out to see. And it's actually about 32 seconds. So I guess this is going to be the last element. And this element is going to be a banked road turn. And then we'll do one of these into one of these. And we'll jump over penalty grass. And then you land in a big downhill like this. And then the finish could just be like that. And it does work pretty consistently now. About as consistent as it's ever going to be. So that's the route. Now for the third and final time, let's make the scenery. And I am now finished with the scenery for the third map. But before I show you the whole map, we gotta quickly give it a name. And because it's like an island and it has a lot of waterfalls, the name for this is gonna be Waterfall Isle. Like that. Now let's save it, give it a thumbnail, like this, and let's show you the full map. So you start off with the little text section into a tight dirt drift. Then you got to keep grip on this downhill. Jump into the quarter pipe. And then you can drive through the triangle. You want to keep as much speed as you can to jump all the way up here. Then you got to keep grip on the outside here. Do a little slide there. Drive through here. And land in this dirt. Dive down, keep grip, and then jump into the downhill like that. And there is the full map. It was honestly very fun and refreshing to make maps with cars that you would never imagine would be in this game. So let me know if you want to see a part 2 where I make maps with the other 4 cars. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you learned something new today, and I'll see you next time.